Hey guys, this is Brian, and these are the top 50 corrections that I've been getting on these new projects. I'm very excited because we have a few people coming up through the ranks doing their first projects, and number one reason for this video, please do not get discouraged by these corrections. Number one, I want everybody learning. These are your first projects and you should be very proud of yourself learning these. However, I did want to go through these corrections. I've received a lot of these corrections on many different projects for the first time, and hopefully this video helps you kick out perfect plans every time. So, or at least helps you fine-tune things on your next projects. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every single, I am going to go through every single bullet point, but I'm not going to be reading them to you. So there's over 50 corrections here. I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to be telling you, and then I'm going to tell you, and then in the end I'll wrap it up by going through what I just told you. Okay, here's a little outline. First one, I'm going to be going through sending me the plans and then building the folder. By the way, you guys can take screenshots so you can read through each one of them as we go. Building the folder of files, and then we're going to go through the site plan, page 1 of the plans. These are just major corrections that you guys are typically giving me, and hopefully you can correct these items. And then I'm going to be going through drawing the house with straight lines, because some people are doing crooked lines, and there's a way you can do it with straight lines. And then I'm going to be going through the structural page 2, some of the corrections I saw on the structural page. And then I'm going to be going through the drawing attachments the new way. I'm going to be going through the electrical page, some of the corrections I've been seeing on the electrical page. Some of the stringing. Then I'm going to be going through more of page 3 on the electrical page. I'm going to be going through the stringing. I'm going to be going through the breaker, why we choose a certain breaker. The 120% rule, which is very confusing for some people. It was confusing for me, so don't worry. The data sheets, the warning placard page, and then finally some other very common corrections I've been seeing that should never happen, and hopefully we can guide you to true north there. And then after you've given me the drawn one project, I actually give you a change that you can charge me for, and this is the change to the new way that I do plans. Okay, and then I'm going to be going through other questions that I've received and then some answers. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to show you pictures now of all 50 corrections, and we'll go through them. So this is the first correction of the project, how you create the folder. I would like you to create separate folders. Okay, so in the project folder, I would like you to put number 1, the site visit checklist that I provide you. I provide you an email to go away and do the project, and then you provide me back both the link to this folder and the projects. However, in each one of these, I want you to do a folder and then the site visit checklist, and then if there's a correction to the plan, I'd like you to do a separate folder, copy paste and correct the files. And then if there's a change to the project, I'd like you to put that folder in there as well. And each of the project files, the final project files, are in each of those folders. So the new project file, the new plan set is in the new folder. The corrected plan set is in the corrected folder, and then the changed plan set is in the change folder, and it shows the history. Okay, so this is how I'd like you to send a project back to me. So you see I sent this project to the engineer on April 26th, and then 3 days later he sends me both the link to the folder that you create, which is this folder, and also the PDF of the final project. Okay, put those both in the email back to me, and then also if you had any questions about the project, put bullet point questions so I can clearly respond to you. Okay, this is another example. This person did not do it correct. I would like the name of the folder to be either new, project name, and the date, or if it's corrected, the corrected project name and the date. And then if I give you a change, create a folder with the same name as the file name, change, project name, and then the date. Okay, that's how I'd like to see it. Here's one done correctly. So you see the project checklist in there, and then you see the final. That should have a date on it, but this engineer didn't do that. But you see the change folder is separate from the original drawn plans. Okay, next correction I saw was pages were out of order. So I opened the project file attached to the email, and I see these pages were out of order. So please make sure that put the pages in order, and I gave you the order of that the pages should be in. It should be the site plan, the structural page, the electrical page, then the solar panel data sheet, the inverter data sheet, the optimizers data sheet, the attachment data sheet, the rail data sheet, and then finally the warning placard data sheet. So it looks like these warning placard and the rail data sheet were out of order. So please put them in order. Next is I received this, and it looks like these margins, you got to get rid of these margins. It makes it look bad, and it throws the scaling way off. So these plans, the scale is meant to be on an 11 by 17 piece of paper. Okay, so please delete those margins. This is what it should look like. These margins are perfect. You can see the one at the top needs to be fixed, but you see how the margins are perfect and there's not big spaces there. So please delete those margins in your platform, your drawing platform. Okay, the next correction I see, I no longer do this. I used to have, I know in my original videos I had this word there, project location, but I just delete those. And I only have the vicinity view and then the satellite view, and then I just draw the house out in the property. Okay, the next correction, please draw a house in the exact orientation as the Google Maps with north facing up. Okay, so this person for some reason put it in a different orientation. So we have to have north facing up. That's how you search for the address, and you take the vicinity view, and then you can see this satellite view has been rotated. I don't want that. I want it to look exactly like the vicinity view. The vicinity view, the satellite view, and the drawing should all look the same. So this is one that's been done correctly. So you see the vicinity view there with the scale line, and then you see the satellite view, and you see the drawing all look the same. So that's what I would like, with north facing up. The second page, you can rotate the home. I don't mind that at all. You can rotate the home to make the panels look easier to read, I guess, and to label everything, and to place the different features like rafters and rails and attachments. So it's okay to rotate the page 2 structural page, but that first page I would like it to be exactly true north facing up. Okay, next correction is, okay, when you do the project jurisdiction there, this city pops out, Milpitas, California. So please just make sure that to move that in and make it look nice, and yeah, just have everything line up, because that doesn't look good. Okay, on this one, this project did not have an AC disconnect. The customer requested not to put an AC disconnect in there. We need to really be paying attention to that, and some of you put the AC disconnect in the project. So just check there. If it doesn't say anything, then do not put one. But nowadays I have a new area in the checklist for this. I show you exactly what the stringing should be. So inverter, AC disconnect, main service panel, MSP is main service panel, or I believe I have an option now that there's not an AC disconnect, and the client can choose that too. So please pay attention to the stringing and only put in what the equipment is that the client wants. Okay, significant figures. Some of you put just, okay, you can see on here they just put 6 kilowatts for the AC power figure. I would like 2 significant figures, so instead of 6 kilowatts, I'd like it 6.0. So always at least 2 significant figures. Okay, so there's 6.7, sometimes it's 6.75, you can put 6.75, but I would like always to have 2 significant figures, okay? And also capitalize everything. It looks better. Okay, sometimes the client on the checklist does not put a tilt or an azimuth. And in this case, I'd like you to think about it and look at the Google Maps photo. Is the roof tilted? If it is, I would like you to default to an 18 degree or 20 degree or 23 degree roof, okay? Any one of those is fine. Just default to putting one of those in there, and I would be very happy with that. It's the client's fault for not putting that information in there, so I need to have a default for you guys. So if you could please default to those tilts. And then azimuth, some people are very confused about azimuth. It's just the compass direction that the solar panels are facing. So it's basically the compass direction also that the roof is facing. So either north, south, east, west, north being 0, east being 90 degrees, south being 180 degrees south, and west being 270 degrees, and then back up to north 360. Okay, this particular project, the roof with the solar panels was facing 170 degrees. I also have a JPEG in the file folders for you to reference, so you can put the house exactly where that airplane is, the center of the airplane, and you can see which way the roof is facing, and you can calculate, or at least kind of get a bit more accurate idea of the exact compass direction that the roof is facing. So azimuth is just compass direction that the roof or solar panels are facing, so please report that. Sometimes there'll be multiple roofs, so there'll be multiple azimuths, okay, that the panels are facing. Next correction, okay, I see here they put a solar edge inverter, but the model number is incorrect. So on every piece of equipment I need exactly a make, which is a brand name, and a model number, the exact model number that's on the data sheets. Okay, so in this case it's the client requested a Solar Edge 6000 HD inverter. Well, the exact part number for that, the make is Solar Edge, the exact part number is SE6000H-US. okay, and then we put a quantity of 1. Also under this inverter section, I would like you to put the optimizers. So Solar Edge is up top, then the model number of the inverter, the quantity of the inverter 1, and then the optimizers and the model number of the optimizers P400, and then put the quantity 20 under the quantity. There's 1 optimizer per solar panel, 4 Solar Edge optimizers, okay? You can see this person also did not put, well, I guess it kind of did, but I'd like it in a different order. The make is Iron Ridge racking, the make is Iron Ridge, the model number of the attachment is Flashfoot 1, the model number of the rail is XR10, so I'd like you to put XR10 rail. I have a duplicate correction later on, I'll show you how to do it. Okay, there's on the data sheet, this is the exact model number, so this is the exact model number you should be putting and recording at every instance in the plans, okay? Please do not shorten it. This is one that's been done correctly. SE6000H-US, quantity 1. P400 power optimizers, quantity 20. So that is done correctly. This is what an optimizer is, and this is how it's attached to the solar panel. There's one optimizer attached in line on the back of every solar panel to help draw the power out more efficiently. This is also how they're attached. Very similarly attached, when we get, these are big box inverters with power optimizers on each solar panel. We are going to be doing projects with micro inverters, so there won't be a big box down by the main service panel. It'll just be one micro inverter on the back of each solar panel, and in order to immediately change from direct current power to alternating current power that you can use in your home. So those are called micro inverters. You guys may or may not have done a project yet like that, but you will be doing projects like that. Okay, here's, we move on to the racking, the attachments and rail. This is how I'd like you to put it. I'd like you to put Iron Ridge, flash foot 1 is the model number. Please do not put it in parentheses or the checker will think it's a quantity. That is not a quantity, that is an actual model number. Okay, and then the model number of the rail is XR10, and I'd like you to put rail. Okay, that's how I'd like you to notate that. This is done correctly. Iron Ridge up top, flash foot 1 is the model number for the attachments. XR10 is the model number for the rail. There's also a flash foot 2 model number that sometimes the clients will use, or XR100, XR1000, so please pay attention and put the correct model number, make and model number for every piece of equipment, okay? Okay, so this is an example of some microinverter projects where you draw the microinverter. I do not require you to draw the optimizers, but for the microinverter projects, I will have you draw one microinverter per solar panel, okay? You can see how this one was drawn very nicely with straight lines. I think that's the next correction too. Okay, no, the next correction are these labels. These labels. You see how this person is crossing labels? It's very, very confusing. Okay, we can't have that happen. I want direct signals to this checkers. I want everything very clear. So please do not cross these lines if you can help it. Okay, please make them very clear. This fire clearance is done perfectly. The roof access, I'd like to have it near the driveway versus where they have it here. Okay, see also in the electrical diagram somebody crossed this line with the actual stringing of the panels to the inverter. Please do not cross that with the labels, okay, if possible. Sometimes these electrical diagrams can get very busy, but if possible, please do not cross that. We want clear label lines so that everything's clear and there's no questions, okay? No confusion. Okay, this one, please point to the actual object. This is not pointing to the panel rails. Somebody is pointing, the label says panel rails, but it's pointing to the solar panels. It's not pointing to the actual rail. So please be careful to point the labels to the actual item that's labeling it, okay? Okay, here's another instance where it's just very confusing. That's too close, you know, it's very confusing. Please make it more clear what you're pointing to, okay? And then this person did not point to anything. They just had the labels out there. Maybe they forgot to actually snap it to those items, but please be careful with this. We need clear signals, and you know, also down here with you know, this label junction box, you can't read it really. It's being confused with the dimensions. So please bring that label out and clearly label that junction box with a clear line. And yeah, that's the correction for that one. Okay, roof access. Okay, you see where this person put the roof access. You have to think about the truck and the crew dropping off all of the equipment. So they're going to come in the driveway. You want it to be very convenient for them. You don't want them to have to go through any gates or around the side of the house with lugging big pieces of equipment trying to get to that place that you have the roof access. So please put the roof access, if you can, is most convenient for that truck to pull up right at the driveway, okay? By law, we are not allowed to put the roof access point in front of any windows or garage doors. So it's best if you point to the corner of that driveway or the garage, I guess. So please be mindful of that. Okay, font size. You can see this one has many different font sizes. Okay, it's way too big. This font size is way too big, so please change your font size. I want all the font sizes to be the same for all labels. That way it looks very nice and professional. This does not look professional having two different font sizes. On my platform, I believe the font size is 0.07, but it might be different on your platform. So all I really care about is that those fonts aren't too big. It's okay to make the street name big, like that street name could be larger, Carnegie Drive, but everything else, yeah, please make it all the same font sizes and not too big. Okay. Also, well, I'll say that another time. Okay, here's font sizes. That's the correct font size in blue, circled, but then the ones crossed out in red look too big to me. Okay. Okay, this is too little. This is an example of too little of a font size for that label for the wires. And then this is the correct font size. I think it's still 0.07. I want it to be the same throughout all of the plans, if you can, please. So that's just minor detail. And then, okay, this is the next correction, getting into how to draw the panels in the house. These panels look so crooked. I was so surprised to see this from this person, but you know, it looked like they did not even draw the house to scale. You can see very crooked lines. The house is not crooked like that, okay? And it's not their fault, really. I guess they were just trying to do the best job they could. But you can see the house, it looks crooked because it might be taken from far away, and just those lines are muddled a little bit, or they're skewed, but in reality those are very straight and flush lines. So I would like you to draw straight lines, okay? And I even teach you how to do these straight lines. Like, that doesn't look good at all, at all. The house needs to be drawn to scale, number one, and number two, those need to be drawn with straight lines and flush. I would like it to be parallel with that ridge line, and that ridge line in reality is parallel with that eave line too at the bottom, but the engineer did not draw it this way. So here's one that's drawn correctly, and the way you draw those lines correctly is you use a function called ortho, the ortho line, and I actually hold my shift key down as I'm drawing the line, and it just snaps to that ortho feature, so I can draw all lines exactly straight. Okay, and here's another one done correctly. You can see the house is drawn perfectly to scale. All lines are very straight, especially on those roofs that have the solar panels. Those are drawn exactly to scale. It's okay if you kind of massage the lines on other roofs, but those roofs that the solar panels on are the most important, that I need to be perfect. Okay, that's how you should be drawing lines. I did have a video of exactly how I do the scale and draw the house, especially on this project, and you can look at it on YouTube. It's called Fast Solar Plan Drafted in 1 Hour, and the minute mark is 28 minutes. 28 minutes into that video, I start drawing the house exactly to scale. I show you how to scale it. I show you how to rotate it. And then I show you how to draw the lines perfectly straight. And then I rotate it back. And so you can go watch that video. That's the exact name of the video. Please go rewatch that video. I think I sent everybody this video to begin with. And also I want to teach you how to draft a project perfectly within 1 hour. So this is a really great video to go back to I want you guys to be able to do these projects within an hour, 2 hours max. Okay, that way you make maximum profit. Okay, here's another correction I had. On the page 1 it says 18-degree tilt, but page 2 it said 16-degree tilt. So we have to be very uniform. One of those is incorrect. Please put whatever is on the checklist. If it's not on the checklist, please default to 18 degrees or 20 degrees. But please make sure whatever you default to, make it congruent throughout the plans. Make it correct throughout the plans. This is incorrect. One of those is incorrect. So just change it. Okay, the client wanted iron ridge attachments, and for some reason they forgot to change the brand name of the attachments and the rail. So please pay attention of the equipment name, and in this case we did not have the model number. I only have you do the model number on page 1, but please be mindful of this. Okay, if you do change the attachments and rail, say there's a change 2 months later and they wanted to change the attachment and rail, please change it on all instances of the plan, and make sure it's just nice to double check to make sure everything's correct. Okay, here's another one. They still have quick mount attachments and unirack rail. It should be iron ridge, whatever is on the checklist. Okay, this one, the checklist said 2x4 wooden rafters at 24 inches on center spacing. Yet this label down here, the engineer forgot to change this one. It still says 2x6 size rafters at 24 inches on center. So please be mindful. Please double check these things. They mean a lot, and we could get projects rejected due to it. Okay, so just make sure everything says the same thing. See, the client requested 2x4 at 24 inches on center, and we forgot to change that label. Okay, I try on this video of me doing the fast plans, I do the same thing every time I do the project the exact same way that I do in that video. And I do that because if I forget something, I feel it, because I do it the same exact way every time. So if I'm out of step, I feel it, and it's easier to catch those faults. Okay, so if the client doesn't have anything on the checklist, for instance, they don't have a rafter size and spacing, I would like you to default to 2x4 inch rafters, size rafters at 24 inches on center. That is the default that I'd like you guys to draw the project to. Okay? Okay, on the change that I'm going to give you, the way I'm now doing the projects, the new way, I have you put 1 inch space between all solar panels, because that's what's actually there. Okay, originally, like 4 or 5 years ago, I was just stacking those solar panels on top of each other, not accounting for the space, and we ran into some major problems, spacing issues, and they went and built it, and they had to tear it all down because it did not fit in the correct spacing by law. And so now I put those spaces in there, and this really saves us from having projects rejected or being incorrect on the roof. So the way I draw them now is I put 1 inch space between all solar panels, and here's an example of that done correctly. Okay, you can see the 1 inch space there. Okay, here's another example. You can see the spacing. That's just how the solar panels are mounted on the roof. You can see the attachments there, the L foot, flash foot 1 attachment type attachments. The flash foot 2 type attachments look differently, and then the rail gets connected to those attachments, and then the solar panels go on top of the rail. So that's how solar panels are attached to the roof. Okay, also the new way, the change that I'm giving you, the new way to do the attachments. I used to do the attachments the old way here, where you see both attachments for each, I guess, line of rails attached only to one rafter. Well, that loads the rafter way down, and it compromises the structural integrity of that rafter. It's not good to put all the load on that single rafter. And so now the way I do it is I spread those attachments out so that the load falls on all rafters and it's more spread out. Okay, so the way I do the attachments in detail is I already have a video on this. It's the new way that I do solar plans now, but you see I put one attachment at the edge of each rail on each side of the array. So the other side of the array, you can see one attachment at the edge of the array. And then in the middle, I actually start up top on the left hand side. I do the next rafter over, and then I just do a waterfall down diagonally, hitting each rafter on each lower rail. Okay, and then I count 2 spaces over, 1, 2 rafters over, and then the 4th rafter or the 3rd rafter over. I guess you could say 72 inches. That's 6 feet, 72 inches. That's what we want our attachments at here. Sometimes they're 48 inches on center, those attachments. The city requires, especially in high wind areas and high snow areas. Sometimes they want those attachments at 48 inches on center, which is 4 feet. Okay, but then, you know, I count 3 rafters over, and then I do another diagonal of attachments, hitting every rafter as I go down progressively, and then I just follow the pattern over. Okay, sometimes there'll be empty spaces, like right here. There would have been an empty space at that attachment right there, so I fill in the blanks after I've done all diagonals. Okay, so that's how I do the new way of doing the attachments, and please carry that through as much as you can. I know it can get confusing when we have different shaped arrays, but this is a perfectly square shaped array, so that's how I do it. Okay, that's done incorrectly. You can see I went and told you about this example already. All of those load is on those rafters only, and you're missing some rafters that don't have any load on it, so that's not kosher. That's not good. Okay, here we go. That is done correctly. Okay, now we're moving on to the page 3, the electrical diagram. Right now, okay, now the new way that I do this is I separate the string calculations coming from the solar panels in DC power. I have separate calculations for calculating the electricity in those lines, and then I have a separate system alternating current calculations, which are the output of the inverter. Those are the total system calculations and the output of the inverter to the main service panel. Okay, so the reason why I do this is I want to find out how many amps are in those lines, so I could wire, so I can find out the size of the wire. Okay, coming from each of those solar panel strings. So in this case we have 276 volts, 9.49 amps in each string, and then I carry that over to what wire size those strings should be. Should be size 10 wire. Okay, I would like to see a power number, so 5,000 watts for the system AC. I want to see power, voltage, and current in amps for each one of those. So power in watts for the string, volts in for the string, and amps that are going through that string, and then coming from the solar panels. And then I want to see power that's being outputted by the inverter, the volts being outputted by the inverter, and the amps being output by the inverter. So that's just a new way that I do it now. You can see there were other corrections on this page, but I'll go into those later. We were able to do one string of 14 instead of 2 strings of 7 on this project. Okay, this one was done correctly. You can see how I separate the string DC power calculations and the system AC calculations. Also, the checker wants to see the difference in both. They want to see us reporting both terms as well. Okay, this is another reminder, do not cross the labels. It gets confusing. Okay, under the bill of materials on page 3, I need to see the brand name, the make, and the exact model number, correct model number of each piece of equipment. Okay, so we have, for instance, LG is the brand name of the solar panels, and the model number LG335N1C-A5. That's the exact model number. Same thing with inverter. We need Solar Edge inverter. SE6000H-US is the model number. Solar Edge power optimizers. P400 is the model number. Okay. Okay, so coming from the roof, this is the next correction. Coming from the roof, if you think about looking at it on the side of a house, you don't want to see multiple conduits or multiple electrical pipes coming down from the roof. It just doesn't look good. What they actually build is only one electrical pipe coming down from the roof with all of the strings in them, with all of the wires in that one electrical pipe. Okay, so there's still multiple electrical pipes on the roof for each string leading to the junction box. However, coming from the junction box down to the inverter, there is only one electrical pipe EMT conduit. Okay, there's still all of those wires for the strings, you know, 2 positives, 2 negatives, 2 grounds, but it's only one electrical conduit coming down from the roof. It just looks better on the side of the house when you go to build it. Okay, this person put the incorrect make and model number of the inverter. Please be very careful with this, especially when copying previous projects. Okay, you want to go through, double check that all the make and model number of each piece of equipment is correct. Okay, this one person said one string of 14 solar panels. However, they drew two strings. I need it to show as if it's one string. Okay, so don't draw 2 strings and tell the person that we're doing one string. We actually need to say it's one string of 14 and show that it's one string of 14 solar panels. Okay, so this is what I mean, but in this case they forgot to renumber them all the way to 14. They just did 1 through 7 and then 1 through 7 again. So please do 1 all the way through 14. We say it's one string of 14 solar panels, and we want to show that it's one string of 14 solar panels. You have 1 positive, 1 negative, 1 ground. Okay, and this is the reason why we can do 14 versus 2 strings of 7. If you look on the Power Optimizer data sheet, at the very bottom it says we're allowed to go up to 25 solar panels per string. That means 25 optimizers in a row per string, or maximum power per string. The maximum power we can have is up to 5,250 watts if we're using any other inverter. But if we're using the 6,000, we're using any one of these model inverters, we're allowed to go to 5,700 watts. Okay, so it's either 25 panels per string that we're allowed to do, or 5,250 or 5,700 watts, whichever is more conservative, whichever one that you hit first. Okay, and that's the maximum we could number of solar panels per string that we could have. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, there's another limit here from the inverter data sheet. It says we're allowed 16.5 amps per string. I'd like you to put the per string nomenclature in there. That way nobody gets confused. Okay, when it comes to solar breakers, this one was determined that you are allowed to have a 35 amp solar breaker. However, a lot of my clients have complained because it's very hard to find a 35 amp solar breaker at the store. So they've requested that anytime it's 35 amp breaker, just to put it up to 40 amp breaker. This is only on 35 amp breakers. We just automatically increase them to 40 amp breakers. Okay, That's only on the 35 amp breaker. If it's determined you can use a 30 amp breaker, I would like to see a 30 amp breaker there, okay? But only if it's a 35 amp breaker, we'd like you just to automatically put it to a 40 amp breaker. Okay, in this case we are not derating. Okay, so I was incorrect about this AC disconnect, but I wanted to point out that for some reason the engineer left this words in derate the main circuit breaker to 175 amps. Well, we don't need to because we're within the 120% rule. The only time that we would derate is if we're breaking the 120% rule. Okay, and I'll tell you what the 120% rule is next. So we have a 200 amp main circuit breaker and a 200 amp rated main service panel bus. I'm going to show you the difference between those. Please label these correctly. Okay, we are not derating again. We're able to do a 30 amp breaker on this project, not a 40 amp breaker. And instead of a new 200 amp main circuit breaker, the client reported that it was already existing. So we need to have that say E, existing main circuit breaker at 200 amps. Okay, this is the 120% rule, and I'm going to explain the rule too. So we determined that we're able to use a 30 amp breaker on this project. So the rule is you are allowed to have as much solar that whatever the rating is of the bus, let's see. Well, at first there needs to be some definition. So the bus is a big metal bar, the blue metal bars that the breakers fit on, okay? That is called the bus, the main service panel bus. And that rating is on that sticker right up there. I think right in that sticker it will say the rating of that metal bar, the bus. Sometimes it's different than the rating of the main circuit breaker. The main circuit breaker is defined as that big breaker on the top. So this is the lines coming in from the utility, from the street, coming into the house, and there's a big breaker to shut off the electricity in those lines. So that's called the main circuit breaker. That might be at a different rating, okay? So sometimes I've seen the main service panel bus being rated 125 amps, and the main circuit breaker is rated only 100 amps, okay? Here it is with the with that panel taken off. Same service panel. You see the main circuit breaker up top. You see the lines coming in from the street, and the main circuit breaker up top, and then the main service panel bus, that big metal bar, and all of the breakers are attached to that metal bar. Okay, we're going to put a solar breaker at the very bottom, as far away from that main circuit breaker as possible. So the 120% rule is you are allowed to go up to 120% of the rating of the bus. Okay, that is both the main circuit breaker plus the solar breaker. So the main circuit breaker in this case is 200 amps plus the 30 amp solar breaker. That's 230 amps. Okay, you're allowed to go up to 120% of the rating of the bus, which is 200 amps. So 120% rating of the bus is 240 amps. You see it right there at the top. 200 amp rated bus times 120%, we're allowed to go up to 240 amps. And the sum of the main circuit breaker at 200 amp plus the solar 30 amp breaker is 230 amps. So a system complies. The sum of the main circuit breaker and the solar breaker does not exceed 120%. So if you don't get it, please rewind the video. But that is how the 120% rule works. I hope that makes sense. Moving on. These are now, we're moving to the data sheets. I can't read what this data sheet says, so we need to really focus. And when you make those JPEGs of the data sheets, either through Google, you Google PDF data sheet, and then whatever the model number of the piece of equipment is. But we need to make those JPEGs high quality data JPEGs before we insert them, okay? Because I see this, I can't read it. None of the engineers can read it, and none of the checkers can read it, and we get rejected. So you're going to have to do it again. So we want to spend as little time as possible on this, so we want everything to be perfect if possible. So this is just again pointing out we can have 25 panels per string, or max 5,700 watts per string. I think we were at 4,200 watts on this project, but main point of this correction is I can't read this data sheet, so please be careful. Okay, lastly, we're getting into the warning placard page. So the map placard at the very bottom of the page, it needs to be rotated so that the house, the meter faces down. The reason why we do this is if this exact sign is going to go on the meter of the home or the inverter of the home, okay, it's going to be exactly where the meter is. And if you're standing there looking at the meter, the utility meter or main service panel, if you're standing there looking at that main service panel, it shows up correctly. You're looking at it correctly as if you're standing there. Okay, so please always rotate the house so that the meter faces down. So if somebody is standing there in real life, they can see it and the house is oriented correctly. Okay, so this one is oriented correctly. That meter is facing down. Okay, and then you can see the compass is there showing the correct orientation. Okay, now we're going into other corrections that I've often seen where we've gone through the whole project, every single page, and now we're going into other corrections that I've seen that should never happen. So please pay attention. In this case, the client was requesting 20 solar panels and 20 optimizers, but this person put 28 solar panels. Okay, so please get your quantities correct. They also put an SMA inverter when it should be a solar edge inverter. SMA is a different company, so please put solar edge inverter. That's what the client is requesting, so we need to get these correct. Please pay attention. Whatever is on the checklist is what I would like you to put. Okay, whatever's on the, and if the information isn't there on the checklist, for instance, there's no tilt or azimuth, please default to the correct tilt, and then the azimuth you can see by looking at Google Maps. Okay, this person put an extra word, attachment. So an existing composite rooftop using iron ridge attachments and iron ridge rail attachments. A rail isn't an attachment, so please delete that word attachment. It's a rail. So I would like it to read iron ridge attachments and iron ridge rail. Okay, somebody put possible shading. They were overachieving by thinking it was good to show areas of possible shading, but in reality I don't want anybody to put this. Please do not put it on the projects. Okay, it's nice that you're thinking about it, but that's not what the customer wants. The customer does not want this. This has to go through the city to be approved, and I just don't want to see this on the plans, I guess. So, but thank you for thinking of it though. Okay, here again, the labels, the lines aren't pointing to the actual thing, so please be very careful. This is unacceptable. And then at the bottom, the roof access per that specific code, please put it in a more convenient spot in the driveway if possible, as much as possible. We really need to focus in on this. This is unacceptable, and this should never happen, but it's okay. Everybody's learning and you should feel good about it. Okay, in this case, people, they rotated the house correctly, everything was good. I think something changed, but they did not change these figures on the warning placard page. I think we might have added some panels or done different stringing, and so if the numbers change up top in the electrical diagram, the numbers are going to change here too. So please pay attention and change these numbers on the warning placard page as well. Okay, this is just another instance where I need to see again a make and a model number. So make or brand name of the piece of equipment and the exact model number. Okay, please be very careful. Pay attention to this. Okay, then, okay, this is now we're going into the new change, the new way that I do projects. This is just going over that one. I already have a video on it, the new way that I do projects versus the way I did projects 4 or 5 years ago. This is the new way I do projects. I put a cover sheet, and then I do a new way of scaling. You see, I put the scaling lines, and I zoom in on that vicinity map. I put exactly true north. So I put a scaling line on that vicinity map, and then I just switch it over to the satellite view. I take another snapshot. That line is still there, and then that house is drawn exactly like that. Okay, so that's what I would like to see. So I put a cover sheet, and I have a new way of doing these JPEGs, and I always face that house on true north. On that first page. The second page can be rotated to wherever is convenient. In this case, the second page, it was most convenient just to keep it the same orientation. And you can see the new way of doing the attachments there. So the other couple things that I talk about in that video is the new way of doing the attachments. You can see this was done correctly. And then also I put 1 inch between each of those solar panels now. Okay, I would like you to do that on every project from now on. Cover sheet, JPEGs done correctly, those vicinity and satellite view done correctly, and also put an inch between all solar panels and do the attachments the new way so you hit every rafter. Okay. Okay, this is just labeling on the electrical diagram. So sometimes the voltage is calculated to be above what the optimizers or the inverter can handle. The inverter can handle only 480 volts, but you have 679 volts going through those lines, DC, coming from the solar panels. In reality, those optimizers actually limit the voltage to 500 volts, and then the inverter itself regulates it to only accepting 480 volts. So there's no possible way you could overload the inverter. But I would like that nomenclature there. I would like those exact words. Voltage limited to 480 volts by SolarEdge optimizer or SolarEdge inverter is fine too. And then put complies. So I would like those words to be there every time now. And then this is just showing you the data sheet. So you have a 6000 H-US. You see the 480 volts, and that's the maximum input voltage. Okay. Okay, we're finally to the last stage. Other questions? Okay, we covered that first one right now. I've mentioned earlier about the 500 volts max or 480 volts. We just went through that. Question number 2, how does the optimizer work and does it affect the calculations? You can see the answer number 2 at the bottom there. Yes, it does affect the calculations in real life, but very great job thinking about this. Yes, it does. No, question number 3, I've noticed in lesson 2 of the DOE project, the original videos, there was an inverter PPTV range, while in the FAM it was left blank in the CAD file. I would like to confirm if this part varies on the brand, so it's not usually necessary to put in the file. And then my answer was, I think the DOE project had an SMA brand inverter, and I think I told us the voltage range on the data sheet of that SMA inverter. But on this project with the SolarEdge brand inverter, there is not a value for the range, so I leave it blank usually. It's a different type of inverter and works in a different way, I think. So, and then the very last, it's not even related to the project, but it's how we work just in my business. Do we have to work on the weekends or do orders on the weekends? And I have to be very clear with this. I would never expect you to work on weekends ever. This is by your own choice. Okay, I understand everybody needs a break and you need to rest, you know, so that we can be high performance on Monday. But if you would like to, it's your choice. I understand either way, and I want to make things, number one, stress-free for you and stress-free for everybody. I want everybody to enjoy doing these and working with me. And so that's my answer. So I would never expect you to work on the weekends, but if you'd like to, you can. Never expect you. So if I were to give you a project on Friday, then you can still charge me the 24-hour bonus if you get it to me by Monday. That's the other part of it. Okay, that's it. Again, this is just to wrap up top 50 corrections I see. And these are just the screenshots I took of what I just went through. You can take screenshots too and go through them yourself. And I hope this video was very informative, and I hope it pointed you to true north and to help you fine-tune some things and correct your projects. And please just get in the habit of doing this every time and double checking. I hope this video really helps you out. And yeah, let's win together. Okay? Have a great day, guys.